Erik Bard's leaked Skinwalker Ranch footage does not show a simple UFO clip. It points to hidden sensor data, missing mesa recordings, strange radiation spikes, and objects caught by cameras, radar, and thermal imaging at the same time. The real question is not what Bard recorded. It is why only pieces reached the public, while the strongest evidence stayed locked away. The family that ran away from their own land. Terry and Gwen Sherman bought a 512-acre ranch in Utah's Uinta Basin for $200,000 in 1994, expecting open land, cattle work, and a quiet family life. They were experienced ranchers, not ghost hunters, and they knew what normal animal deaths looked like. But within 72 hours, their cattle started dying in ways that made no sense. The cuts looked too clean, the scenes looked too quiet, and the family quickly understood something on that land was not acting like any predator they had ever dealt with. The mutilations followed a pattern that made the Sherman case harder to dismiss. Organs were removed with clean, almost surgical cuts, yet there was no blood pooling around the carcasses, no tracks in the dirt, and no signs of struggle from a panicked animal. In normal ranch deaths, coyotes, dogs, or large predators leave chaos behind. Here, the bodies looked as if they had been processed somewhere else and placed back on the ranch. That detail pushed the case from strange to deeply unnatural. Terry Sherman's wolf encounter came about 3 weeks after the family moved in, near the edge of the property. He described an animal the size of a horse, calm enough to stand close, and strong enough to take 3 rifle shots at close range without reacting. Terry followed the tracks through the mud, expecting to find blood or a wounded animal. Instead, the prints simply stopped mid-stride. As one account described it, the tracks ended like the animal had vanished. Glowing orbs became another part of the family's daily fear. The Shermans reported silent lights moving across the fields at night, entering the barn, and once coming close to their children. Their dog ran toward one orb in the pasture, and by morning, the family found only grease-like spots and a faint chemical smell in the grass. After less than 2 years, the Shermans abandoned the ranch and refused to let their children return for belongings. Terry later told a local reporter, "We were not welcome there." The billionaire who bought the ranch and went silent. Robert Bigelow, founder of Bigelow Aerospace, bought the 512-acre Skinwalker Ranch in 1996 for about $200,000, but he was not buying it like normal land. He wanted a controlled research site in Utah's Uinta Basin, where the Sherman reports could be tested with equipment, trained staff, and long-term observation. After the family ran from the property, Bigelow moved in with money, structure, and one clear goal: find out what was happening there. NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, was not built like a weekend ghost group. It used credentialed physicists, former military intelligence people, medical professionals, and field investigators who spent nearly 10 years studying the ranch. They worked with cameras, sensors, night watches, physical exams, and written reports. Their job was not to create rumors. Their job was to document events in a way that could be reviewed later. One researcher later described the place as a living laboratory. The NIDS team recorded hundreds of strange events across the property. Reports included UAP sightings, cattle mutilations, unexplained burns, neurological symptoms, poltergeist-like activity inside buildings, and instrument readings with no clear source. That range made the ranch difficult to classify. It was not only lights in the sky. It was animal damage, human effects, equipment failure, and physical traces all appearing in the same location over years. Bigelow's silence became more disturbing than the reports themselves. After nearly a decade, NIDS released only a few careful summaries that confirmed unusual activity but avoided strong public details. Bigelow later said some findings were serious enough to notify government officials, which raised the obvious question: what did they see that required that level of attention? Then in 2016, he sold the ranch to Brandon Fugel, and the files, recordings, and findings remain tied up behind contracts that still keep the full record out of public view. The $22 million secret, the Pentagon buried the Pentagon connection, began in 2008 when the US Department of Defense quietly authorized AAWSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, with a budget of $22 million. The money came through defense appropriations, meaning Congress approved the funding without the public clearly knowing what the program was truly studying. On paper, it sounded like advanced aerospace research. In reality, part of that trail led straight to Skinwalker Ranch. Robert Bigelow became the key figure because the AAWSAP contract went to Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, his own company. That meant the same billionaire who owned the 512-acre ranch in Utah's Uinta Basin was also the main contractor for the Pentagon's secret UAP research program. The ranch was no longer just private land with strange reports. It had become a central data site for a defense-backed investigation. As one insider later put it, the ranch was part of the program. AAWSAP personnel went to the ranch under defense contract and reported experiences that did not fit normal field research. Some described anomalous events, physical effects, and readings that were written into reports and then moved into classified channels. Several people connected to that work later said the ranch changed how they understood physical reality. That claim matters because these were not tourists or TV guests. They were people working inside a government-funded research structure. Luis Elizondo, the former Pentagon official linked to AATIP, later connected Skinwalker Ranch data to classified US government UAP investigations through public interviews and testimony. That connection placed a remote Utah cattle ranch inside national security discussions, not just paranormal debate. Then the $22 million program was quietly defunded, and its findings disappeared into restricted systems. The American public paid for the research, but has never been shown the full Skinwalker files. The man they brought in. To measure it, Brandon Fugel opened Skinwalker Ranch to a new kind of investigation after 2016, and he did not bring in a paranormal performer to lead the technical work. He brought in Erik Bard, a physicist with a background in defense contracting and research environments connected to US intelligence-style science programs. That choice mattered because the ranch already had decades of claims. But Bard was hired to separate fear from data. As one clean way to frame his role, measure first, explain later. Bard's method was built around instruments, not belief. He helped develop one of the most detailed private sensor networks ever placed on a single 512-acre property using thermal imaging, ground-penetrating radar, radiation detectors, electromagnetic field monitors, and high-resolution aerial surveillance. These tools gave the team a way to compare what people saw with what machines recorded. That is what made the investigation sharper than earlier ranch reports from 1994-1996 or the AAWSAP years. Skepticism shaped Bard's early approach on camera. He was not dismissive, but he wanted normal explanations tested first. Aircraft, weather, sensor error, radio interference, wildlife, faulty batteries, and bad calibration. Only after those options failed did he begin calling certain readings anomalous. That made his reactions more serious because he was not trying to make the ranch sound strange. He was trying to reduce the strange claims until only the hard data remained. Defense research experience made Bard harder to ignore. He understood classified-style sensor data, documentation chains, controlled testing, and the kind of findings that can trigger institutional attention. Within his first months on the property, his systems began returning readings he could not explain through normal physics or equipment failure. That is where the next part begins. When Bard's machines stopped confirming stories and started producing evidence that raised bigger questions, what the instruments started finding. Bard's equipment began showing the same problem again and again. Radiation appearing where no source could be found. On the 512-acre Skinwalker Ranch, his detectors recorded sudden spikes of ionizing radiation in small areas, sometimes lasting minutes, sometimes stretching for hours, then vanishing without leaving clear contamination behind. That mattered because radiation is not a feeling or a rumor. It is measurable. As one team member put it, the instruments were reacting before we were. Electromagnetic readings added a second layer to the case. Across Utah's Uinta Basin, BARD's monitors picked up field changes that did not match power lines, towers, vehicles, or normal local infrastructure. Some spikes appeared during reported UAP activity overhead, creating a link between what was happening in the sky and what was being measured on the ground. The next question became harder to avoid. If an object was above the ranch, why were machines below it reacting? The mesa became the most serious target because BARD's ground-penetrating radar detected strange subsurface structures beneath the raised triangular formation. These features did not clearly match the surrounding geology, and the team could not fully study them because longer physical access near the mesa kept producing health concerns. Researchers reported burns, memory gaps, and neurological symptoms after spending time in specific zones. In one case, a team member needed medical evaluation before symptoms faded within hours of leaving the property. Repeated data made the ranch harder to dismiss as fear, hoax, or group imagination. The same patterns appeared across multiple visits, multiple people, and multiple tools: radiation detectors, electromagnetic monitors, radar, cameras, and medical reports. The activity was concentrated, measurable, and physically harmful. That is why BARD's findings carried weight. He was not chasing ghost stories from 1994, 1996, or 2008. He was watching modern instruments record something dangerous in real time, and the readings kept pointing back to the same places. The footage that stopped making the show History Channel opened the ranch to the public in 2020 through The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, giving viewers access to cameras, experiments, and real-time reactions from Brandon Fugal's team. But almost immediately, a gap appeared between what Erik BARD's instruments were recording and what the broadcast episodes actually showed. The audience saw selected clips, edited scenes, and short explanations, while the full sensor logs, raw camera feeds, and long monitoring sessions stayed off-screen. One quiet line explains the problem: what aired was not everything recorded. Production control became a major part of the case because the show does not release footage automatically. Every clip passes through legal review, network decisions, and ranch ownership approval, with Brandon Fugal holding final authority over what reaches the public. That means even if BARD's cameras captured something serious at the mesa, the footage still had to move through contracts, editors, and lawyers before viewers ever saw it. This created a second investigation behind the first one. Not only what happened on the ranch, but who decided what could be shown. Several moments across later seasons made that gap harder to ignore. Team members referred to events that had happened, described readings that had been recorded, and spoke as if the footage existed, but the matching clips were missing from the episode. Instead of full recordings, viewers sometimes got reaction shots, short summaries, or partial visuals. That pattern matters because strong evidence needs context: time, angle, sensor data, and full sequence. Without that, the audience sees the result, but not the proof. BARD's language also changed as the seasons continued. In earlier episodes, he explained anomalies with more technical detail, naming radiation, electromagnetic readings, radar behavior, and sensor problems clearly. Later, he appeared more careful, often pausing before choosing simpler words. That does not prove suppression by itself, but it fits a man aware of limits around what he can say publicly. The missing footage most often points back to the mesa, the ranch's most active zone, where hours of sensor data exist, but no full unedited session has ever been released. The UAP sightings that changed the conversation BARD's sensor network recorded its most serious aerial case above the mesa, where a triangular object moved across Skinwalker Ranch at a speed and angle that did not fit normal aircraft behavior. The movement was not slow drifting, balloon travel, or a simple drone path. It changed direction in a way that would create deadly G-forces for any human pilot inside a normal craft. One team member described the reaction plainly: that was not flying like anything we know. Multi-sensor confirmation made this case harder to dismiss. The same object appeared on optical camera, thermal imaging, and radar at the same time, giving the team 3 separate records of one event. That matters because a single camera can catch glare, a radar can show error, and thermal equipment can misread heat. But when three instruments agree, the explanation becomes much harder. Bard's data turned a sighting into a measurable target. Thermal readings made the object even stranger. A normal plane shows heat from engines, exhaust, or friction, but this object appeared with a cold signature and a warmer disturbance around it. That pattern did not match known aircraft, drones, helicopters, or conventional propulsion. Similar language has appeared in military UAP discussions, and older NIDS reports from nearly 20 years earlier described related sensor problems. As one careful summary put it, the heat was wrong. Another event from the ranch's nighttime thermal system showed a small luminous object descending from altitude, crossing toward a structure, passing through the wall without visible damage, and continuing out the other side. Bard described it carefully on camera, but no full explanation followed. By Season 3, former Pentagon official Luis Elizondo reviewed Bard's data and said parts of it matched, or even exceeded, UAP evidence he had seen in government programs. That pushed the ranch footage from TV mystery into national security territory. The ranch knows. When you're watching, Bard's most unsettling pattern was not one object, one light, or one strange reading. It was timing. New cameras, sensors, or monitors would be placed in a quiet area of Skinwalker Ranch, and within minutes, activity sometimes increased around that exact spot. Bard did not describe this like a believer chasing a theory. He treated it as a data problem. The response appears tied to observation. Earlier research makes the pattern harder to ignore. NIDS teams noticed similar behavior in the late 1990s. AAWSAP personnel saw it again in the late 2000s, and Bard's team documented it across multiple History Channel seasons. That means 3 separate groups across nearly 25 years reported the same strange behavior. The same ranch, different teams, different equipment, same reaction pattern. The meaning is difficult because normal causes do not behave this way. Weather does not care when a camera turns on. Geology does not react because a radiation detector was moved. Human fear does not explain radar hits, electromagnetic spikes, and thermal changes happening near fresh equipment. If the pattern is real, something at the ranch may detect being measured and shift its behavior. Specific cases made Bard more careful with his words. He described events starting shortly after new sensors were installed in areas that had been quiet, then fading when equipment was removed or moved. That cause and effect pattern is why the awareness idea is so dangerous to say out loud. The moment a scientist says the activity may be aware, institutions stop listening, and that may be the ranch's strongest shield. What Erik Bard actually said. Bard's most careful answer came in a 2022 interview, when he was asked whether the Skinwalker Ranch activity seemed intelligent. He paused for several seconds, chose every word slowly, and said, "The data suggests a level of interaction that is difficult to explain through passive or random processes." From Erik Bard, a defense-trained physicist working on a 512-acre ranch in Utah, that was not a casual sentence. It meant the data looked active, not random. Public comments from Bard also show that some findings moved beyond the ranch team. He confirmed that research results had been shared with outside parties, but he did not name them, describe the files, or explain the arrangement. That silence matters because it fits the behavior of someone under strict limits, possibly tied to contracts or non-disclosure rules. After AAWSAP, NIDS, Bigelow, and Fugal, the ranch already had a long history of controlled information. On camera, Bard often seems to stop himself before saying too much. Across multiple History Channel seasons, he starts technical explanations about sensors, radiation, UAP activity, or the MESA, then shifts into simpler wording before reaching the strongest detail. That pattern does not look like confusion. It looks like a scientist who knows the answer is sensitive. One viewer could describe it simply, "He explains until the line appears." The clearest gap is what Bard never says. When asked why some recorded events have not aired, he points toward production choices, ownership decisions, and release limits. But he has never clearly said the missing footage was weak, useless, or unimportant. That denial would be easy if it were true. Instead, his words create a careful picture. A scientist with serious data working inside a controlled system where the full truth is not his alone to release. What the leak actually reveals. Skinwalker Ranch did not leak through one dramatic video. The leak came in pieces. History Channel footage, Erik Bard's statements, researcher interviews, and the known $22 million government funding trail. Together, they form a partial release of a much larger record built across years. What the public sees is managed, edited, and deniable. As one clean summary puts it, the leak is not one clip, it is the pattern. Released footage appears to show the safer edge of the case. Lights, readings, strange reactions, and short clips that build credibility without exposing the full data chain. The strongest material likely sits deeper. Multi-sensor records involving radar, thermal imaging, optical cameras, and MESA readings with possible physics or national security implications. That split explains why some evidence airs while the most complete sessions remain unseen. UAP disclosure after 2017 makes the ranch harder to separate from government interest. Former officials, whistleblowers, AAWSAP links, congressional testimony, and claims about non-human technology all run near the same network that studied this 512-acre property in Utah. The overlap does not prove every claim, but it shows the ranch was not isolated. It sat inside a wider defense conversation. Erik Bard remains at the center, still running sensors, logging data, and appearing in a show that releases only part of what his systems capture each season. That means the gap keeps growing. More files on the ranch side, fewer full records in public view. The real shock is not one hidden video. It is the structure around it. NDAs, contracts, classified channels, editorial control, and a physicist choosing every word like he knows exactly where the line is. The footage was never the real secret. The system controlling it was. And that changes everything we thought we knew.